Covenant Church. I'm Pastor John. Welcome to Digging Deeper, book study of Romans. Hopefully you're dialing in on this. If you've just joined us, no worries. We're doing little short sermons for those spiritual ADD people like me. And also we're doing little life bits. You can just take away a little portion. But we're also looking at the bigger picture of Romans because I believe this book is unbelievable. It's changed my life. I hope it changes yours. And so today's little life bit I want you to take away is don't worry about a thing. Everything's going to be all right. Chapter 8 is the best book in the Bible. If there's only one chapter that you had, this is the one that you want to read. I love this. I love this book. And so, do you know those people that are like the world's crashing and burning around you, the plane's going down, and they're as calm as a cucumber? Which I'm not sure where we got calm as a cucumber. Cucumbers aren't that calm; they just lay around a little pokey things on them. But there are certain things that I don't understand. Like I don't understand. Like I was looking at the specs on an airplane, and we're flying in a fairly small airplane, and it was 160,000 pounds before us and the luggage that gets on there. It's like, how in the world? I mean, I understand the physics of it, but like, how does a plane fly? Like that, I can't wrap my brain around. Or hamburgers. Why do we call them hamburgers when there's no ham in it? All right. And how does the mind of a woman work? That's what I don't understand, or really work, right? I don't know if we'll ever know that. I'm just kidding. The things I really don't understand is suffering. Why bad things happen, especially to good people. Why there's like evil, like in Syria, and thousands being killed. Like if you look at World War II and with Hitler and all these things, there's loss and pain. There's tremendous suffering on planet Earth. There is millions and millions of people that are suffering and starving, and I don't understand that. And last week, we looked at too of there are times as a pastor when there's no answers. I know that there was a parent's house where we went over and the kid had blown his brains out in the garage, and we're in the house, and I didn't have any words for that. There was funerals where everybody's asking me why. I was with a family that experienced their parents' murder and suicide, where the husband shoots her and the dog and then kills himself, and they lost both parents in seconds, and I didn't have words. And as I've had 20-year-old friends killed. I've had dads of 17-year-olds that are dead, weeping in my office and in my arms, and little caskets with more flowers than you could even count. And I've also seen my wife who lost her brother to suicide and trying to pick her off the floor. There are so many things that I didn't have words for, and that's why I'm so glad we have Romans chapter 8. It says in verse 26, in the same way the Spirit helps us in our weakness, and we do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us through wordless groans. And he who searches our heart knows the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for God's people in accordance with the will of God. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. For those God foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, and that he might be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. And those he predestined, he also called. Those he called, he justified. And those he justified, he glorified. I gotta be honest with you. I lean hard on verse 26 at times. And often my prayers are groans, right? And often my prayers I have to remind God of this passage, that the Spirit understands our groans. And the Spirit of God intercedes on our behalf to the Father. That's an amazing thing. See, hopelessness is when you cannot understand the things you want to understand. And that's what's happening in our world. I believe that suicide is the only thing that makes sense to somebody at the time, right? Because they're hopeless and they want to make understanding of this pain, this stuff that they can't ever understand. And so that's hopelessness, when you're trying to understand and you can't understand. And so a lot of times people turn to suicide as the way that they can understand it. But I said two things to my brother-in-law just hours before he committed suicide, and we didn't know that he was at that point. We knew that he struggled, but he was struggling for understanding. And I said two things. I said, number one, Stephen, you're a good man. I mean, this guy was such a good man. He would actually we gave him a thank you card, and then he'd write us a thank you card for the nice thank you card. That's how he was. He was a good man. But number two, I said, you have tunnel vision. And verse 28 explains this tunnel vision, that we don't see the bigger picture. And it says that, for we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. I'm going to leave you with 6 things Number one is God is the only one who understands you. Let me get that right. Number one, God is the only one who understands you, right? When I was growing up, I was with the Herbley Family Singers, and I'm a junior high kid. My 3 older sisters had all these pink paisley pastel flower things, and I had to wear things that matched that. So I had pink pants, and I had plaid pants, and I had weird things, and it was like persecution. I had to go up in front of everybody and sing, right? Nobody understands that. Every person's life will never be fully understood by somebody else, but God completely knows what you're going through and understands it, and He's the only one. Number 2, God never is discovering or amazed or questions. Every secret on earth is open in heaven, right? Every secret sin on earth is open scandal in heaven. There's no breaking news in heaven, right? God knows all and is all. Number 3 is that God is good to the core. God's job is that He works all things. It says He works. That's His job. In Jeremiah, I love the part where Jeremiah is told to go to the potter's house and God will give him a word. And it's a popular place because that's where everybody got their pots and their pans. And he says that you're spoiled in the hands of a potter, right? There's a potter's wheel. And if you ever spoiled pottery, if you ever tried to do that, it's hard, right? And can't I do whatever I want? We're clay in God's hands, right? It's like kids playing with Play-Doh that you can choose to create. God is good to the core. And even though it may hurt, is that, listen, that we are clay in His hands. And sometimes He molds and shapes and we don't understand what He's making of your life, but He does. He's good to the core. And number 4, He never plans your demise. It's very important that God never plans your demise. As parents, we want our kids to succeed. We don't want them to skip school so they get an education. We give them clothes because we don't want to be an embarrassment or have them cold. Or, my mom used to have 2 piano students that we didn't have a lot of money, but basketball shoes were very expensive back then. And she used to have all the money from these 2 students to go to support my basketball, right? Most parents want their kids to succeed, right? He never plans your demise. He wants you to succeed. As we're children of God, He wants us to succeed. And number 5, the Spirit helps us in our non-understanding. He speaks groans. Isn't that amazing? The Spirit of God helps us with our non-understanding when life gets very confusing. And number 6, His plan is total, but not in our time frame. You know what? That's an amazing thing. It's not necessarily on our time frame. So if we're honest, most of the things that happen in life aren't good, right? So how can we have verse 28 that He can work all these together for the good? Because the overall plan is if you're flying at 30,000 feet and not 30 feet, we only see 30 feet. And God is flying at 30,000 feet. He never plans your demise, only your glory. And He wants us to look to Jesus. That's why pain is still here. It's shaping your clay to look more like Jesus. He's molding us to look like Him. And Jesus is the model, right? He's the model that God is molding us into being. Right? I close with a story. Roger Udarian, it's in the movie The End of the Spear. There were 5 missionaries that went to Ecuador. And you think that they're going to be giving their lives for missions to win this tribe. In 1956, Wadandi tribe has never heard the gospel of God, and they wanted to go make contact with them, and they flew over and sent them gifts, and they tried to do things ahead of time, and they went down there, and this guy actually went to my school, but obviously a long time before I was there, and there was this little lounge on the 3rd floor. It was called the Roger Udarian Lounge. We used to just hang out in there, but we didn't realize the whole picture behind that. And so they made contact, and this tribe ended up killing them and slaughtering them right there. And you think, how can God work this plan? Because the good that came about from that is that one of the Wadandi tribe members came to know Jesus because of the testimony of the families and the testimonies that were left there. And that the whole entire tribe came to know Jesus because of that one guy and because of these missionaries when I stepped out. God sees the bigger picture, and He knows in your life. Let Him shape your clay. Let Him shape your life. God bless you guys. If we can help you in any way, a prayer, just reach out to us. We love you. Go in peace. Have an awesome week, and we'll see you next week. God bless you.